emergency. Get up on your feet, rise up.
Welcome to the Drexel SEMA show. Today is a show that I'm very excited about because it's something that I enjoy, which is the hospitality industry. In fact, I think when the time I was 18 years old, I think it was my last year in college, this thought came to my mind about owning a hotel. And even though I don't have a hotel, but I am fortunate to be in property management, so I'm glad for that opportunity. And I also am excited because, the Turks and Caicos Islands, we're changing. And that, we're like a melting pot. We have so many different people in this country. And it seems like when people come here, they just fell in love with the place. And I want to, have this discussion, what it is about Turks and Caicos that people like. Because when they come, they just love the place. And when you love something, you don't want to leave. You want to stay. And so today I have a very, very special guest, Mr. Stan Hartling. And I want to welcome Stan to my show.
Nice to be on your show.
Yeah.
It's a privilege.
Thank you. So Stan, who is Stan Hoffman? For those who are watching, who is Stan Hoffman?
Yeah, that's like looking at a Picasso. I think sometimes it's all over. But to ask that, I guess someone that's very passionate about team building.
Team building.
I'm not a tennis player because I don't like playing by myself, and so I love things that involve teams. I've always cherished that, and I love the physical presence of when you create something. So I've been very fortunate and blessed to be able to combine those in hospitality. I get to see the physical structures come up, and then I still get to go at night. The other night we were at Almond Tree, and I said to Joan, I just love watching people use something that you stood in as a construction site.
Oh, wow.
And to see the warmth and ambiance now. So those are the magical moments. So someone that loves and very passion driven for that.
I love it. So now you've been in Turks and Caicos now since when?
It's over 20, almost going on 25 years.
25 years, wow.
First trip was in 96.
Now the Turks and Caicos Islands is a small dot on the map. Why did you choose Turks and Caicos? I mean, there's so many other popular destinations. I don't even think it was popular back then.
Yeah.
Why did you choose Turks and Caicos?
I love being in an environment where fairness is the rule of the day.
Okay.
Not a book this thick, and I came from a very small community, really an old fishing village in Nova Scotia. Learned very quickly that friends come and go, but enemies accumulate. So you've got to learn to work within the village.
Got it.
And I love that kind of environment. I wouldn't have thrived in Miami or somewhere. So that was number one. I had to have a place where being part of the fabric, being part of the village, whatever that is and wherever that may be, was important to me. Mm-hmm. I had gone and looked at various spots from Mexico to Bahamas to the Dominican Republic, and I just never got the sense that I got here when I came. And I came for an offshore tax planning seminar. That's how it started.
Really?
Yeah. And it was a little ad in the paper, and I just left on the plane, said, I feel like I sort of belong there. And I said, maybe I better go back for a second visit. And on the second visit, I actually ended up buying the piece of land, which is now the sands of Grace Bay.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Now you say you're from a fishing village. Now growing up in that fishing village, did you ever imagine that you will be in the hotel industry or?
All I knew from a young age was I would constantly tell people I want to have my own business. And I was always very driven to do that. But when I say that, I don't want to discourage people that didn't realize that until a little later in their life.
True.
Because I always hate to say anything that discourages people from making a change today to get on direction for what you want to do. I don't ever like the idea that the bus has already left. Mm-hmm. There's another bus. Mm-hmm. And so I happen to have a passion for it very early and would almost spout it off as a 7-year-old kid. But I had no idea what that would be, but as I got older, I knew it would have something to do with physical creation. I came up through the chartered accounting side, as you did, mm-hmm. and my passion was much more towards getting out into industry and doing that eventually.
Mm-hmm. I think I have to follow you. That's what. So, do you have? I know you bought the land, and when your second visit, but people watching this will say, "Well, I don't have any money. Mm-hmm. What can I do to start a hotel or any business,
Right.
do you have to have a lot of cash on you?
You know, look, cash and assets come in various forms, right? And that's what people forget. They always think it's always cash.
Right.
I was not born with a lot of money. My family, my first job was a dishwasher.
Really?
Yeah, I was a dishwasher and worked my way up through as a cook, and eventually, continued until as we went through university. But I can remember clear as a day when I had $900 in my banking account, because I remember seeing the slip come out of the machine and I was so excited. So that isn't, I don't want people again to be discouraged if they don't, but there's different ways that you build equity. And when I say equity, we always think of money, but there's all kinds of different types of equity. There's reputational equity. There's, as we use the term, sweat equity. There's all kinds of ways to put yourself in a position where you can take advantage, and when I say take advantage, I mean help take an opportunity with somebody else's, capital. And there's several ways to do that. But one thing we're all born with is the same amount of reputation, right? We all start with the same bank account reputation-wise, and it's full. It's up to us to lose it, right? If we spend our reputation in the wrong way, then we'll wonder why the capital isn't coming to us, why are investors not wanting to work with us, those kinds of things. And I always strongly encourage people, please protect anything, more than anything, is your reputation, because you'll always get another chance at it if you have that. So things like, and it's very important, I will tell you. A lot of, when I first started, I didn't have the money for land, but I had the trust of people that had money. And I swapped and worked until 3 in the morning if I had to make sure I didn't let somebody down when they gave me the opportunity to have a piece of equity. The other thing to do is, in several times there's assets around that people aren't using, land that someone maybe have sitting there that the family's off somewhere else. But if they can have the trust that maybe you can do something with that land to make it that it's better for them and better for you, there's an example of those kinds of things where sometimes it's about being smart and getting relationships with people that have assets. People that have assets need people that can make them productive as much as people that don't have assets need the people with them. So it's very important, and that connection is reputation. I will tell you, that's the first glue that binds you. And you don't have to be a superstar at something right away, but your reputation will always get you that another round at the table. So that's the biggest advice. I mean, reputation, enthusiasm. Don't be afraid to think out the box a little bit. Not everything starts with you writing a check.
Right. That is awesome. You also talk about working very hard as well.
It's funny. The harder I work, the luckier I get. But it is very true. I mean, people need to see your dedication, and I often use the example. I look at some people I know that are really well built, and I think I'd love to do that. And I go to the gym once and wonder why it didn't happen. It has to become part of your mindset. If you really want it, it becomes part of your mindset. Just like it being very physically built, you need to think about your diet and all these things, and they just become part of what you do. But again, everything's varying degrees too. Like we talk about success like it's only successful if you're really big, or you've done something monetary, or you've done something. I hate seeing success talked in that terms. Our financial growth has come from a passion for building and a passion for being part of team building. If it was only driven by economics, I'm not sure we would be successful. And sometimes the over-focus on how do I make money makes you make no money, because you've never been passionate about something where people go, you're really good at that. I can, and that starts to lead you in a good path. If your obsession is constantly with money, sometimes you just constantly find yourself down a bad road. Right,
because you end up doing anything to get money.
And you're doing a bunch of things that you're maybe not even good at. And a lot of times I find with people, typically people will do something that they're third, fourth, or fifth best at, because they think that they're not really, shouldn't be able to do what they're best at or would most enjoy. Because you think, I don't deserve to do that. I mean, that would be too fun. And I just, again, ask people to stand back and say, what is it you would really love to wake up in the morning and do? It's not going to change overnight. And like we talked about a little while ago, is I always love for people to stop thinking about how do I get this now? How do I do something over the next year that will get me closer to where I want to be. And you'll be surprised how that starts to compound up.
Yeah.
Because you'll think, it's like me deciding I want a beautiful tree in my front yard. Every day I can look at it and say, if I put that tree in now, it's not big enough for what I want. But if I don't plant the tree, in 5 years I'm saying the same thing again, right?
It'll never grow.
So, I think you lose the obsession over timelines and just ask if you're redirecting yourself a little bit.
Yeah. So basically, what the key takeaway is, like, we have to think long term, basically.
I think so, yeah. You think long term and think about your direction. You put a line on the wall, did I move 2 feet closer to my goal? Yes, it would be beautiful if you went 20 feet, but you went 2. And 2 leads to 4, 4 is, and so I really, I encourage people to start, if it's important to you on how you succeed or do, you got to start thinking slightly differently. And if it's been several years and you're not heading in a direction that you're going, don't keep doing what you're doing and expect it to change, as they say.
Get the same results, right?
Get the same results. So, and these can be small, subtle changes,
Sure.
They can be also, make sure that you're networking and getting yourself out. A lot of times charity work is also a way to get around and get the attention of people that are great people, that are a lot of people that have capital and equity, love to be involved in philanthropy. And it's a great way to put yourself in a positive light in front of those people.
Yeah.
Good people are always looking for good people.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that, people that have something don't want others to be around. I can assure you, great people are always on a hunt for other good people.
Yeah.
They need them.
Awesome.
And,
were there any challenges, like, after you started with the Sands, right? Were there challenges you look back with saying, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? Did you encounter anything like that?
It would be easier to say if there was any days that I didn't think.
Oh, okay.
It was constant.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is sometimes, quite honestly, it's a fine line between saying I need to analyze something a lot before I go into it, but you also have to find the fine line of, am I overanalyzing it? At some point, there's never going to be that moment that you're just so comfortable that you jump into it and it all comes together. It doesn't happen. It's a fallacy. It doesn't happen. I can assure you that, successful people do things that unsuccessful people are uncomfortable in doing. You have to go out of your comfort zone. You have to. If you're not slightly uncomfortable, you're not growing. I almost never see it. I mean, there might be some strange exception to the rule, but if everybody that has made any amount of success, whether that be professionally, monetarily, however they want, family growth, they've had to do something where they, for that moment, felt a little discomfort, Right. And it's okay to do that, and that's what I had to do here. I mean, it was a huge leap of faith to take that step, but, you run yourself some scenarios, whatever that may be, but then at some point you just got to get in the water. And you know what? You're probably going to get in the wrong end of the pool, but you're in the pool. Start swimming and get going,
Right.
But I just so many times watch people stand on the side and think, this isn't the perfect moment. This isn't the perfect moment.
Yes, yeah.
There is no perfect moment.
I like that. You're
you
right.
know?
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can work your way, again, as I say, towards something till you get more comfortable,
Yeah.
But you've got to put yourself in a place where people, the other thing that I often say, especially to young people, is I'll ask them when we're speaking, when's the last time you told somebody else what you really want to do? And it's amazing how many times they'll say, I never did. I never said I want to be a this or that, or I'd love to do construction. And I think, you got to.
Yeah.
Because the second, you tell me that you wanted to write a book, you're an author to me now. But if you never said anything, I can't read your mind.
That's right.
And so it's also very important for people to project out on a constant basis what you want. If you'd asked me, when I was leaving the CA program and we got into it, what do I want to be? I'm a developer. I'm a developer. And I say it enough until everybody around me believes me too.
And then you become what you say.
You become what you say, and there is no sense keeping that to yourself. Go ahead, tell people that's what you want to do, or even if it's as general as I want to be in business for myself. But it's a combination of, like I say, your reputation, your enthusiasm, and your outward communication of what you want to be.
Yeah.
And it goes a long way. It really does.
I love it. So and then you went into a second development project. you started the first one, you completed the first one. What made you now take a risk? Because I think back then we didn't have that many tourists,
No.
coming to the islands.
Yeah.
Well, certainly not what we have now.
Yeah.
What made you venture into a second development?
Yeah, the Palms was a big quantum step. A lot of people forget that because we have so many hotels around today, but the Palms was really one of the very first five-star hotels of its size. You know, don't get me wrong, we had Grace Bay Club that was a smaller,
Yeah,
26
small,
room hotel. We did have Parrot Key, but we didn't have a lot of the properties we see now. There was
No.
with big spas and
No.
all of this. So it was a quantum leap, and I was quite frankly told that it wouldn't work because people didn't want to put, at that time, $1.5 million to $2 million, which was considered really big money, and they wouldn't want to put in a rental program. And so this is where doing one thing leads to you being able to do something that you wouldn't have otherwise envisioned doing. That's why I said get in the pool and start swimming.
Yeah.
Because now that you're in the pool, you get subjected to other things that you wouldn't be if you were standing up on the side.
Yeah.
The Palms is a perfect example. Everybody who wasn't in the marketplace thought we could never make it work. But because I had taken the first leap and gotten into the sands, I had feedback, I had information, I had a gut feel that I would have never gotten had we not done that.
Right.
So if I would have avoided the sands, I never would have got to the Palms, right? And so I had a lot more confidence to go in. Still very nervous. It was a big challenge. It was a lot of stuff, but and especially on the opening, on the operational side, that was a real quantum leap for us. But you know, it allowed us to do something that, again, people go, well, man, how did you know that would work?
Yeah.
You know, and so again, getting into the process, getting some confidence, getting other information. So that's how the Palms really came together. I knew in my heart that the clients that I had bought from me before, as an example, the most they would spend is, say, $600,000. That was it. That was the top you were going to get for a condo. But as they seen that the concept worked, they would say, you know, now that we look at it, we wouldn't mind a little more room and a little nicer finish and a little this. But the concept was working, and we helped prove that concept up.
Yeah.
And so the Palms was really the next generation of that.
Elaborate more on the concept. I mean, because a lot of people come into the Turks and Caicos Islands. I know that it's in other Caribbean islands, but somehow we seem to capitalize on this one because other many islands, it's just hotel rooms. Tell us about the concept.
It's really interesting, and I think that you know, a lot of times it's underestimated why
I think so.
and how successful the condo hotel concept has been here for Turks and Caicos, and why. You know, first of all, you know, islands like, you know, even Jamaica, the DR, all of those, they have easy access to natural resources.
Yeah.
They have a lot of access to labor, access to easy water, access to easy, you know, food, vegetable, you name it, right? Construction materials. So it's easier to build something there and operate it at a lower cost. In Turks and Caicos, if we think about it, we have to import everything. We hardly can even use the sand.
Almost everything,
like everything,
virtually.
So when you think of the cost impacts of that, they're substantial. Now we know we charge a lot more as well, but if you look at it, and you're an accountant, so you'll know exactly what I'm saying. A hotel is only worth what it generates in cash. So if a hotel generates $2 million a year, it's probably worth 8 to 10 times that, right? But so it might be, say, 20 million. But if it costs 25 to build it, no one wants to do that, because why would you want to operate it and have it valued afterwards at less than it costs to build it? Because, you know, our inputs are expensive, our construction's expensive. So the problem that we kept running into was every time we would try to make a pure hotel work, the numbers weren't there. But in a condo hotel, it splits up the risk. Now you have someone coming in to buy the real estate, the room, and unlike a capital or an institutional investor, they're not only looking at it for the rate of return. They're looking at it like, I love it. It's like a second home to me.
It's
and
mine.
so they're happy maybe with a 3 to 4% return, plus they can come and go in and out of that investment easy, because you know, unlike a hotel where you either sell the whole hotel or you don't, you know, you can't slice it up into little pieces that way. So it made it a great investment where people could come in and go out as they pleased. they didn't put the heavy burden on how much they needed for a capital return on it. And so that allowed us as investors to say, we can split up the risk now.
Okay.
I can take the risk on the spas, the restaurants, and the operating and the staffing, and they take a different type of risk in their providing the real estate. So that model became the magical model that worked, and that math worked.
Yeah.
And even to this day, it's very true.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we're starting to see a little bit of some pure room product be put in, but it still wouldn't be there if they didn't do a condo portion of it to get some of that capital back.
Yeah, yeah. And then you now at the third development, which we're here right now at the Shore Club, which is not even on the Grace Bay Beach.
Right.
You came here, and I noticed since you launched this product here, I've seen more developments came since then, because in the past we just came here for conch shells.
Yeah,
you know.
right.
So
and you would have got a lot of them.
what drove you now to build a third development and not on the popular Grace Bay Beach?
Yeah, and again, this is a question of being very alive and sensitive to the information around you. And,
Yes.
And always being close to your client. Listen, listen as much as you talk, sort of thing. There was two reasons. One was I had a home on Long Bay, and I always loved the serenity of it. It was on the opposite end of this beach, and just fell in love with it. So I started to develop a comfort that other people didn't have, because a lot of people would come over and just go, oh, they wouldn't see anything here. The beach at that time, until we restored it, had a lot of conch shell in it. When we've since rectified that, but they would see the breeze and stuff and only look at what they thought were hurdles. I was fortunate enough to live on this side and understand how you really can make it a very comfortable, unbelievable environment. And I had other clients too that were saying, Grace Bay, to them, at least, not all my clients by any means, but some of my clients were saying, if we could sort of go back to what Provo was 10 or 15 years ago, maybe we would be interested.
Oh.
So I was like, light bulb. That's why we purposely went lower density here, and didn't try to be a repeat of And I love Grace Bay. I love it completely. But it was time for some differentiation in product.
Different,
And so we weren't for everybody, but for the ones that loved us, there was no other place to go. And sometimes you need to be, that's the way you need to look at your marketplace.
You have a certain targeted group that you...
don't run where everybody's running. And it turned out to be immensely successful. During the times that we were selling this project, in some cases we were 15 to 18% more than the average price on Grace Bay.
Oh.
And so, per square foot. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Now, since this is tourism is our mainstay in the country, one thing I think I regret is not buying a condo. I mean, what advice would you give to residents? Would you encourage them to invest in a condo at least?
I think I would encourage more land-based.
More land-based?
Things, because if you can somehow get yourself attributed to the land, it doesn't carry the same obligations that a condo does. I mean, once you're in a condo, you've got the expense that will come with it, so you need to get it matched with some income.
True.
I always jokingly say, land never got me in trouble. It's everything I put on top of it. Right? So,
I like that.
And so, to some degree, watch what you take on. And I, again, often say to young people, there's a great book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yes.
And it speaks very much about the difference between assets and liabilities. And sometimes we think certain things are assets when they're really not. Like someone gets a brand new car, I got a great asset. No, you don't. You got a liability.
No, you're right.
Got insurance, you got a payment, you got repairs, you got this, right? Don't get me wrong, it's a physical asset. But
I understand what you're saying.
It's not an earning asset. And so what I love about land is it's a little more approachable. Or again, so many Turks and Caicos Islanders develop great relationships with people that are expatriates that are here and want to do things. There's a lot of opportunity in that. They either have land that maybe they'd be willing to do something with, or they could be encouraged to do another villa on, and that would be a management contract, and and those kinds of things. I think the first step isn't about trying to make that quantum leap, but how do I, as a Turks and Caicos Islander, get into the relationships that will give me opportunities to start doing things. And that's the biggest opportunity I feel we have here right now, You know, it's not necessarily big flips or this or that. It's taking the patience to develop some great relationships,
Right.
because those will pay you again and again and again. You know, it's one thing to get something and, yeah, you know, that land went up and I sold it and I made some money and I did this. But then if it stops, you know, I like doing some things that have some perpetuity
Yeah.
to them, which is why, you know, yes, we do the development, but we don't do that and then just stop. We try to build an operating business with that. And then we've always got something that's going. And so I think it's a matter of trying to if you were looking, you know, if I was speaking to a young islander, I would say, you know, get out, get in front of people, and that can be in many different spots, you know.
Yes, yes.
Everybody says, well, I don't know people that have those kind of resources. You can be in front of those people, even at the hotels. You know, I see staff that owners get to really know and trust and love. And,
That's true.
and when they move on, and I've seen this happen, I have a great spot in my heart over it. You know, people say, oh, I bet you're sad you lost that great employee. I am, but I got a pretty big smile on my face that we helped develop that
Yeah,
relationship.
exactly.
And I can tell you, it's a win-win, because in many cases, 5-10 years later, I'm meeting that employee and they're like helping me do something or get, you know, everything's a long-term relationship here. It really is. And
That's a good point.
I really encourage a lot of the youth to please think of that.
Yeah.
Think very wisely before you dismiss, you know, I often say to anybody, and I don't care where we're from, what color, prejudice is a way to make sure that only a small fraction of the population wants to work with you.
Yeah.
I don't care which way it goes.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so I really always encourage, and I love going to the schools and saying, don't let anybody tell you that you're not welcome in this business world, because that's not true.
Yeah.
You're needed in this business world. And if we're going to have a great working relationship and a great industry here, it's got to be all inclusive.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we can say what we want, it will fail.
Yeah.
It'll eventually, it will trip.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's 5 years, 10 years, 20, but it will trip.
Yeah.
And so, you know, those are the things where I say, don't be in a position where you're like, well, I'm not going to go talk to that group of people.
Yeah.
Please, don't do that to yourself. Get out and talk to those people
Yeah.
and get the relationships going.
Yeah. It might be that same person that break that moment for you, you know. Yeah,
Listen,
you're absolutely
you
right.
know,
You never know.
I will tell you that, you know, a funny little story was, you know, you never know what's going to change your whole life. When I was in the chartered accounting firm, the nickname was MacGyver, because I used to love to fix things.
Oh,
And
okay.
when I was on an audit, the vice president and the president got to know me a little bit, and they hated computers, because they were back in the day when you used to carry the little computers around. And they said, you know, these young guys coming in, if you took that computer away from him, he can't do anything for the day. And so, unbeknownst to me, when I left, they went and got their IT guy and took the fuse out of my computer. And this was back in the day when people smoked in the office, believe it or not. So I'm dating myself. But, you know, just give you a small example on how quickly one little thing that you do without thinking about it changes. And I came back from the lunch break, and the whole big accounting team there, and this was a shipbuilding yard. And I go to turn on my computer, and it wouldn't turn on. And I said, that's crazy. So I flipped it up and took the thing out and looked, there was no fuse. So I said, that is bizarre. We're using it this morning. And I went and got a piece of tinfoil out of a lady's cigarette pack and stuck it in there and got back to work. And next thing you know, these two guys are standing looking at me saying, how are you working on that computer? We got the fuse right here.
Oh, wow.
And so that one little story ended up getting me introduced to my first two partners. Because they knew these guys that were builders, and they said, you got to meet this guy. You know, he won't give in. But do you see what I mean? Like, it's just these little tiny things. And
it's a great illustration.
You know, young people today, or young, middle-aged, whatever, never forget that you can have that magic moment. And I'll guarantee you one thing, you won't know when it happens. So don't try and predict it, and don't try and get discouraged if it doesn't happen because you're a really nice person for 4 days. Be that person.
Yeah, be yourself.
Again and again and again, and guess what?
Yeah.
It will stick.
Yeah, be consistent.
Yeah.
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed this.
Yeah, man, I loved
this
it.
interview. I am inspired. I am encouraged. I know the viewers are. I don't know if you have any closing remarks you want to add.
No, just
I really enjoyed this.
Again, honestly, I say it. Thanks for being you. You're a very positive spirit in the community. I watch what you do. I loved how we came to your book launch.
Yes.
And you know, it just, I love good, and you have a lot of it, so thank you.
Well, thank you again for watching this wonderful discussion, Mr. Stan Hartling. I was thoroughly amazed and encouraged and inspired. And even though I'm in my 50s, I still know that I could get a hotel that I want to own, a condo. And I hope that you are encouraged, because, you know, many of us, I believe, want to be in the hospitality industry, and sometimes we don't know where to start, or we're afraid to start. But here's Mr. Hartling, who didn't start with much. But look at him today, one of the biggest developers here in the country, and training other people, embracing the development in the Turks and Caicos Islands. So please, use this video, rise up, and take your position. Remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel.
Rise up, rise up.